Today's video is brought to you by Cars and Bids, my online enthusiast car auction site that recently sold this, and this, and this, and this, and this. This is the new 2023 Mercedes-Benz EQE SUV, and it's more important than you might think. This is Mercedes' new fully electric midsize SUV, and it likely previews the direction that future Mercedes SUVs will start to go. Today, I'm going to review the new EQE SUV and show you the quirks and features of the future of Mercedes-Benz SUVs. All right, time for the quirks and features of the new EQE SUV. And first, thank you to Fletcher Jones Motor Cars here in Newport Beach for providing me with this EQE to review. Fletcher Jones is one of the largest Mercedes-Benz dealerships on the planet. They get all the good stuff, including the new EQE SUV, which just went on sale, and it's hard to find. But they saved this one for me to review, and I'm going to do just that. Thank you to Fletcher Jones Motor Cars. But let's talk EQE. Like I said, fully electric Mercedes-Benz midsize SUV, and it's roughly equivalent in size to the GLE, which is Mercedes' most popular gas-powered midsize luxury SUV. Now, the EQE is totally different from the GLE, not just an electric version. It's a completely different car, and right now it's offered in two versions. The base model is called the EQE 350. That starts around $79,000, or you can upgrade to this, the EQE 500, which has more power and starts around $91,000. Now, the big difference between the two trims is performance. The EQE 350 is offered with rear-wheel drive or all-wheel drive. It has about 290 horsepower, 0 to 60 in the mid 5-second range, and a total electric range of about 280 miles. You step up to the EQE 500 and you get standard all-wheel drive, about 535 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4 seconds flat, and an electric driving range of about 270 miles, so roughly the same as the 350. Mercedes also says these are capable of DC fast charging, so 5% charge to 80% charge in just 30 minutes if you can find a charger capable. And next we move on to the quirks of the EQE, starting the moment you unlock the car. It makes kind of a futuristic hum sound. Take a listen. It's a bit hard to hear, but it's there humming at you when you unlock the doors as if to welcome you to the future. Now, the other interesting thing that happens when you unlock the doors relates to the door handles. You can see right now they're flush against the body of the car. That's because the car is locked. But when you press unlock, the door handles pop out, and then you can actually grab them and use them to, well, open the door. And when you get inside, you discover a few more hum sounds. One, when you sit in the seat. Take a listen. And another futuristic sound when you put your foot on the brake and press the start button. All of these sounds, I think, are here to make you feel like you're in something different from a normal Mercedes-Benz, and it certainly has that effect. But beyond all the humming, when you climb inside, you look around and you see a rather beautiful interior. You can see gorgeous materials, nice technology, aluminum, good trim. Everything is pretty nice in this car, as you'd expect. This EQE 500 has a sticker price of a little over $100,000. Now, one of the most striking elements in the interior of this EQE is the wood trim on the dashboard. You can see beautiful wood with pin striping throughout. Mercedes-Benz calls that natural walnut with a yacht design theme. Apparently that refers to the pinstripes. Amazingly, it's only $1,500 extra. It looks really good, but other stuff is beautiful in here too, like the infotainment screen in the center kind of rising up on this curved panel from the center console. It's a nice looking interior in this car. And the interior has some futuristic touches too, like the climate control vents in the center. They're integrated into the top of the dashboard. As you can see, this giant line going across hides those central climate vents so they don't stick out, take up space in the middle of the dashboard, and it's kind of a futuristic minimalist look. Now you can see also along that line some mood lighting, and if you look closely, it's changing colors. Right before our eyes, this mood lighting is changing colors in real time. Obviously that's adjustable. You can have it be a solid color if you want, or you can have it color change while you drive down the road, which is kind of cool and certainly futuristic. One other futuristic touch in this car, surprisingly, is opening the sunroof. No more button or dial. Instead, you have this pad on the ceiling where you swipe your finger. Swipe back and it opens, as you can see, and if you tap the pad, it will stop the sunshade from opening. Swipe forward and then it closes. No button here. Instead, you're swiping your finger, a futuristic touch. But since this car is all about the future, let's talk technology. Like, for example, this little square below the center screen. That is a fingerprint sensor, and if you hook up your fingerprint to the car, it can pull up your memory settings. That way, you don't have to make sure to take your key instead of your spouse's key, or press a memory button when you climb inside. It's linked to your fingerprint, which is very futuristic. Also, along this line below the center screen is your volume control. No standard knob here. It's a slider, as you can see. Slide left and right for more or less volume. But let's move into the screen where more interesting technology lurks. Like, for example, the air purifier display. You tap here and it shows you the air quality of the outside air, and then the air quality of the inside air once it's been purified by this car's air purifier systems. You're only breathing the best in the EQE, and you can monitor it in real time. And speaking of air quality, this car can deliver you a fragrance as well. You can see fragrance here in the Air tab. The car is offered with a vial of fragrance that you can stick in the dashboard, and when it's in place, it will puff out little scents of the fragrance through the climate control system when you have the fragrance turned on and the climate control running. And you can choose different vials of fragrance. You can buy them from your Mercedes-Benz parts department. Not your usual auto part, but that's the situation. Fragrances in your EQE. But anyway, next, let's talk about this infotainment system, which is of course central to the functions of this car. And I have to say, it is fantastic. Among the very best in the entire car industry, Mercedes' latest infotainment. Very easy to use, intuitive. You tap, it responds instantly like a good smartphone. It is exactly what you're hoping for from an infotainment system. I find it to be really, really excellent, well laid out. It really is a brilliantly designed system, and people with these new Mercedes-Benz models are always telling me how happy they are with the latest infotainment. And beyond what you get in most cars, there are some amazing hidden tricks and settings in this infotainment. For example, the driving range. You can go here to see exactly what your range is and what is currently stealing range, like using the climate control and how many miles it's stealing, and how you could maximize your range. And if you tap this giant button in the center, it will do everything in its power to maximize your range. So put you on an eco drive mode, turn off your climate controls, just one button to maximize range, and it even shows you how many miles you'll gain if you do that, which is a pretty cool idea. Another cool idea is a feature Mercedes calls downhill speed regulation. You can turn this on, and then you're going down a hill on a freeway. A lot of cars, your speed starts to get away from you. Here, it will maintain that speed when you're going downhill, so you're not potentially open to a speeding ticket because you didn't notice your car was speeding up. Another cool feature of this car, road surface projection. This car can use powerful lights to project warnings onto the road surface in front of you. Like if you need to immediately brake or something else, you can see that projected onto the road while you drive. In case you're not paying attention, you will be once you see that. An amazingly cool feature of the EQE. Next up, also in this infotainment system, and rather curious, is a bizarrely comprehensive off-road section. You can see it here, and it gives an unusually large amount of info for a vehicle that will never be taken off-road. You can see it shows your current incline side to side and front to back. It shows which wheels are currently being used, if you're using four-wheel drive or not. It also gives your current GPS coordinates down to the exact degree and minute and second, plus your tire temperature, your current elevation, all sorts of different things you might want if you're off-roading, even though nobody ever will be in one of these. And speaking of screens in this car, let's talk gauge cluster screen directly behind the steering wheel, which is fantastic. This is one of the very best gauge screens in the entire car industry, just like the central infotainment. Very clear that an enormous amount of thought went into this. I love how configurable this is. In its standard display, the center panel can be configured to show basically anything you might want to see, including a navigation map in addition to everything else it's displaying. Or you can go to various different displays that show full screen whatever you want. You can choose. So if you want a full screen map, you can do that, as you can see here, or full screen driver assistance, you can also see that, or full screen off-road mode. For some reason you want to see that, you can. It's a little odd how much they've prioritized off-road in this car, but I suspect they just use those apps in all of their SUVs, including the G-Wagon, which is why they have it. But great technology in this car, the gauge screen and the center screen, really good, really easy to use, among the very best of any car in the entire car industry. And next up, we move on to the back seat in the EQE SUV, which is actually surprisingly large. I have decent headroom here, but especially decent legroom, which you don't always see in a midsize SUV for taller adults, but I got good space back here. Only 2-row seating in the EQE SUV. The EQS SUV offers 3-row, but you can't get that here. But a good-sized back seat. Aside from that, however, the back of this car is far less exciting than what I just showed you up front. Not too many frills or cool quirks or features back here, although you do have a climate control system and it's dual zone, so rear passengers on both sides can tailor their climate control needs to exactly what they want. You also have a display back here showing interior air quality in real time. That's what that is, and it adjusts as the air quality adjusts back here, in case that's something you wanted to know. Most people don't, but it's there if you need it. Now, one drawback of the rear seats is no heated rear seats, which is a little disappointing considering the $105,000 price tag of this car. I was recently in a new Honda Accord Touring for $38,000 with heated rear seats, but you don't get it in the $105,000 EQE 500. You do, however, have a fold-down armrest, as you can see, for your comfort, and the front panel, you push it, it pops out a little, and there's a slot where you can stick your smartphone while you're riding along, or you push it a little bit more and it pulls out more for cup holders in the back seat, adding some comfort. Nice touches back here, but not particularly exciting or quirky. And next up, we move around back of the EQE SUV and onto the cargo area, which is accessed in a wonderfully quirky way. You press on the top of the Mercedes-Benz logo, and then it opens up. Take another look at that. You push on the top, and that's the popper that opens up the tailgate to get into the cargo area, which is a cool idea. Now, once you're back here, you can see a reasonably sized cargo area, not especially large for this mid-size luxury SUV segment, but not small either. It's pretty much exactly what you'd expect, and there's a lot of storage under the floor. You can lift up the floor and see a lot of extra storage under here for other items if you don't want them rolling around or mingling with your other items. Now, one thing you won't find back here is buttons you can press to lower the rear seats automatically. Although that's more common in 3-row SUVs to lower the 3rd row. Usually most people aren't frequently lowering their 2nd row of seats, so not all that surprising not to see those buttons. Other than that, nothing particularly interesting or quirky in the EQE cargo area. And speaking of the cargo area, one very interesting thing about the EQE SUV is this front compartment does not open. A lot of electric cars have a little cargo compartment up front since there's no gasoline engine, but not the case here. This compartment is fixed in place. And if you want to add windshield washer fluid, you do that through this door. You push on it, this panel on the front fender, it pops open, and that's where you add your washer fluid. Otherwise, no need to access access or service anything in the front, so it stays sealed. But that's probably not the most unusual thing about the front of the EQE. That honor goes to the grille, which from a ways away just looks like a normal grille with some lines for style, but you get closer and it's actually the little Mercedes-Benz stars. Of course, the grille doesn't need any actual openings for airflow since this is an electric car, so they just made it look like a regular grille using Mercedes-Benz stars as the lines you would find in a traditional car grille. Certainly an unusual design decision. And speaking of branding, another interesting item on the outside of this car, it says EQE right here on the A pillar where it meets the hood line next to the rear view mirror. It's branded on the side in addition to on the rear. I guess Mercedes-Benz wants to make sure people know exactly what this is from every angle, since it's kind of a step in a new direction. And let's talk about that new direction for a second, because I'm not sure Mercedes has executed it all that well. I say that because there's an EQE SUV, but also an EQE sedan with the same name. Same deal with the EQS. There's a sedan and an SUV. Totally different vehicles, but same name. One is just sedan and one is SUV. Seems like an odd decision. It's kind of confusing. Okay, you have an EQE. Well, do you have an SUV or a sedan? Imagine if Honda called the Pilot the Accord SUV. It's just a little bit weird, and I'm not sure Mercedes has perfectly thought through their electric vehicle naming. And something similar could be said for their electric vehicle styling. All of the Mercedes EQ electric models have a very similar design language. The EQS kind of started it very aerodynamic, oval shaped, intended to have the least drag air resistance possible for the best range. But the result is that, well, some people really don't like them. The designs have been kind of controversial, and that includes the EQE SUV. It's actually interesting because BMW is causing controversy with its designs by going ugly. Mercedes seems to be causing controversy by almost going bland or circular. I look at this EQE SUV and it doesn't feel like a $105,000 SUV from the outside. On the inside, certainly, and on paper it does, but the styling, it's not exactly thrilling or exciting, and I think the gas-powered GLE looks better, frankly. And worth pointing out, the GLE is also cheaper. So the EQE 350 starts around $79,000. The equivalent GLE 350 starts around $61,000. This, the EQE 500, starts around $91,000. The equivalent GLE 580 starts around $85,000. So not as big of a price gap there, but the EQE is still more expensive. However, it's also more powerful. EQE models are more powerful than their gasoline counterparts in the GLE range. So you're paying more, you're getting full electric and extra power, but it comes at a cost. As for rivals to the EQE SUV, the biggest ones are the BMW iX, BMW's new full electric SUV, the Audi e-tron, which has been on the market for a little while, the new Cadillac Lyriq, and also the Tesla Model X and maybe higher trim versions of the Model Y. More and more electric SUVs are coming out seemingly by the day. All right, driving the EQE SUV. And I gotta say, this vehicle is kind of an interesting conundrum of like great stuff and kind of questionable stuff. One of the great things is undoubtedly power, 535 horsepower to 0 to 60 in 4 seconds. This is a legitimately fast car. Whoa! Whew. Legitimately fast. It feels actually truly fast, and that's coming from someone who drives a lot of sports cars. 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, and of course the instant torque that electric vehicles have. This truly feels woo, quick. And even the base model at 290 horsepower is pretty good. You know, the standard GLE 350 has like 250 horsepower, so that's a pretty big boost over the regular gas-powered GLE. Then there's the interior, which I find to be absolutely beautiful. And not only is it a beautiful place to like be and look at and see, I mean, gorgeous, this natural flat wood looks so nice. All of the German automakers kind of took a break in the mid-2000s with some questionable interiors. Since then, things have all been just ratcheting up and better. Mercedes is doing the best of BMW and Audi and Mercedes. This is just a beautiful place to be. The ride quality is also so nice. You have this very nice interior that feels comfortable and luxurious, and then the car drives like it is comfortable and luxurious. So you think these are all great things. It's fast, it's nice inside, it's luxurious. What problems could there possibly be? And the answer is, it's expensive. It's $105,000, which is a lot of money for a mid-sized crossover, frankly. The EQE 350 starts at $80, whereas a regular GLE starts around $60. It is an enormous price jump to get into this vehicle, and it is pretty expensive for what it is. And that is especially true when you look at it. The styling just is not what I'm looking for when I spend $105,000. There goes a Range Rover Velar, a far more attractive vehicle and more like inspiring. Like, you look at that and you think, I want it. You look at this and you think, that's 105 grand. Mercedes just doesn't seem to have given the electric vehicles the styling cues that people like really make it desirable, that people really want. But if you can get past the styling and the price tag, you really have a pretty impressive car here. And frankly, I think it's one that's not really gonna get a lot of like interest and excitement from people, in part because of the confusing naming, having an EQE sedan and an SUV, but also because most people will just buy the GLE. Most people still want gas cars and aren't ready to make the switch. So this vehicle I don't think is gonna have like a huge splash, but it's a nice car. Driving this, I'm thinking to myself, this is something I would love to take on a longer drives. I have myself a Mercedes E-Class station wagon 2022 that I take on longer trips, and it's so comfortable. And this is even better than that. And the technology is really fantastic. Other things worth talking about. For one, seating position. Because of the kind of melty, roundish styling, it doesn't look like it's that high off the ground. But sitting here, it does feel like a crossover. Like, one of the things that people mainly like about SUVs is their high seating position. This has it. No question about that. Road noise and just general noise in here is surprisingly muted. Most electric vehicles, you hear a little bit more of everything else because you don't have an engine to drown it out. This car, you hear nothing. I don't even hear tire noise. The only noise you get when you floor it, there's this like electrified sound that makes it sound like an engine is running. I guess they don't want to just make it be completely silent acceleration. If you're looking to go electric with a nice luxury SUV, and if you can't stomach the styling of the BMW iX, which a lot of people can't, and if you don't need the off-road capabilities of the Rivian, or if you don't want to wait for one, there's a lot of great things about this. And frankly, I feel like this does seem like the Mercedes of electric SUVs. It's nice, it's luxurious, the technology is great. It's a great vehicle to be comfortable and drive around in. And I suspect that's why people are going to buy it. And so that's the new 2023 Mercedes-Benz EQE SUV. Mercedes naming conventions make no sense. There's an EQE sedan and an EQE SUV, but this is the one that's more important, the mid-size SUV that previews the future. And now it's time to give the new EQE SUV a DougScore. And the DougScore is here, 63 out of 100, which places the Mercedes EQE 500 SUV here against some comparable vehicles. It beats out a lot of other luxury electric SUVs, like the Jaguar I-Pace and the Audi e-tron, which frankly are both pretty outclassed and outdated at this point. But the EQE SUV doesn't quite beat out the luxury performance SUVs like the Tesla Model Y Performance and the Ford Mustang Mach-E GT. However, a forthcoming AMG version of the EQE SUV will surely be more successful here. Overall, I like the EQE SUV a lot, though I find its styling uninspiring, which is a shame since it's introducing many people to electric vehicles from Mercedes-Benz.